Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Man and woman are a peerless pair, being supplementary to one another. Each helps the other, so that without the one, the existence of the other cannot be conceived, and therefore it follows that anything that impairs the status of either of them will involve the equal ruin of them both." In this video, we hope to examine the third Millennium Development Goal, to promote gender equality and empower women. We will look at the goal itself, the targets by which its success is measured, and our own experiences and the experiences of a range of other individuals we met during our time in Mozambique. First things first, let's look at some definitions and some assumptions. What is meant by gender? According to Oxford Dictionary, gender is the state of being male or female, typically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. These culturally determined gender identities define rights and responsibilities and what is appropriate behaviour for each sex. It therefore follows that gender equality means the same opportunities, rights and responsibilities for all. The success of this Millennium Development Goal was to be measured against the target of the elimination of gender disparity in primary and secondary education, preferably by 2005, and in all levels of education by 2015. Three indicators for the success of this Millennium Development Goal were identified: the ratio of girls to boys in primary, secondary and tertiary education, the share of women in wage employment in the non-agricultural sector, and the proportion of seats held by women in national parliament. Having examined the wording of the Millennium Development Goal, in our opinion, it is ambiguous, biased, and it certainly lacks inclusivity on plenty of counts. Firstly, there is no direct mention of empowering men anywhere in the text of the Millennium Development Goal. Secondly, seeing that gender is a socially constructed concept and can often be influenced by context and culture, there can be no one set definition, and as a result, from the offset, the goal lacks real clarity. Perhaps the idea of empowerment and equality for all might have been a less restrictive goal to achieve. There is also no mention of the members of our society who were lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, queer, intersex, or asexual. We feel that the target of eliminating gender disparity in primary and secondary education is only partially related to the Millennium Development Goal it is trying to achieve. Firstly, focusing on education alone will not achieve gender equality. Mozambique is a country in sub-Saharan Africa with an estimated population of 25 million people. This nation achieved its independence from Portugal in 1975. It endured a civil war from 1977 until 1992. This has largely influenced the country's development. 45% of the population is under the age of 14, and over half of all citizens remain underneath the poverty line. Simultaneously, the country has an abundance of natural resources and fertile farmland. Much of the population remains rural. In essence, there is a huge need and also a great potential for sustainable development. Young Africa has two centres in Mozambique: Young Africa Beira, which is situated just outside Mozambique's second largest city, Beira, and Young Africa Agritech, which is located in Dondo, a rural area 25 kilometers from Beira. Both provide vocational and technical skills training. However, Young Africa Agritech has a greater emphasis on the agricultural aspect of training. As part of the program, students undertake compulsory life skills training classes, which address topics ranging from ecological awareness and entrepreneurship to HIV prevention. The idea is to provide a holistic education that, as Young Africa states in its mission, can result in the empowerment of young people in Africa. We decided to examine Young Africa's role in contributing to the Millennium Development Goal. We asked Xana Maria Alberto Varela, the Centre Director of Young Africa Beira, this question. Her response was, Young Africa works with young people and young women in particular. At our last graduation, 49% of our graduates were women. Young Africa offers incentives to women through scholarships for industrial courses in partnership with SERV. to encourage women to take on professional vocational courses. We also give opportunities to adult women, although normally our target group is between 15 and 25, to do vocational training to improve their living conditions. The training at Young Africa gives a whole new dynamic to their lives, and we also have the Girls' Hostel for 48 young women. It's one of the opportunities Young Africa has created to contribute to gender equality. We also spoke to Carmen, one of the girls currently studying at Young Africa and living in the hostel. Hello, my name is Carmen. I am 16 years old. I live at the Young Africa Training Centre and I do the mechanics course. According to Carmen, in Mozambique, now things are better. We as women now have more opportunities, directions and choices. We also now have power. We are now free. And to live here is becoming good. Again, we spoke to Agsana and asked her about the success of gender equality within Young Africa Mozambique as an organisation. She had this to say. The management team consists mainly of women. Also, the teachers of construction and auto mechanics are female. On that same line of thought, we also met with the Young Africa sewing teacher, who was male. He told us that many males own and run sewing businesses in Mozambique, and it is actually a custom for males and not females to run such businesses. This is another example of how culture can impact on a definition for gender equality. We feel that Young Africa has been hugely successful in achieving gender equality in terms of what the MDG has set out. The target was to eliminate gender inequality in all levels of education, and since Young Africa provides tertiary education in which 49% of graduates are female, this has to be seen as an overwhelming success. However, Young Africa also goes further than just facilitating equality in education. Young Africa also offers females a chance to take on roles in management. One only has to look at Oksana as the Centre Director of Young Africa Beira as an example. Young Africa also provides the same services for all graduates after they leave the training centre, in terms of microcredit options, and in doing so they empower females and males alike in the business sector. Now we will examine Mozambique's role in contributing to the MDG as a country. In recent years, Mozambique has invested heavily in primary education. There has been a boost of 100% in the enrolment rate. But let's take a closer look. Enrolment rate doesn't necessarily equal completion rate. In northern Mozambique and rural areas, there's a high dropout rate due to high teen pregnancy rates and early marriage rates. There is also a huge problem of sexual harassment by male teachers, according to UNICEF. The level of education received in Mozambique is also coming under question. Morning, afternoon and night classes are held due to a severe lack of teachers. Overfilled classrooms and a lack of teaching equipment such as chalk, blackboards, pens and paper can only result in a decreased level of learning. There has actually been a deterioration of maths and reading achievements in recent years, according to Makua 2010. Although numbers attending schools have gone up, there has been very little investment into expanding and increasing facilities and employing new teachers. And there has also been little investment made into teacher training. Although children are getting an education, this so-called education consists of attending school, while the substance of this education rarely comes under question. According to Carmen, here in Mozambique in recent years, women play an important role, because us women now have a lot of opportunities and lots of advantages. Today we have voices, we have more facility for things. Now we're not badly treated or badly abused. In every place we go, our lives are respected. It's true that domestic violence and discrimination exist, but very little. When asked, "So do you mean that today is better than before?" she replied, In the past, women were afraid, didn't have courage to talk about their problems. If a child was abused, they didn't have ways to say, "I was abused." Today, at schools and in hospitals, there are campaigns that create awareness that violation is forbidden. Children grow up knowing what is right and what is wrong. It is improving. However, she also conceded, "For me, in my home, I can say that I am very blessed, because I had an opportunity to study and to live here at the training centre, and I can choose any course I want to do and for how long I want to do it. My parents told me not to feel pressurized to be or to do anything." Her view highlights how things are getting better, but maybe it isn't representative of the situation nationally. Oksana adds, "There are many public vacancies in the public sector that still give preference to employing men. A lot of vacancies are directed towards men rather than women. In the family, it's the men who make the rules. I feel there is room for improvement to make the rules together. This is the difference between Young Africa and other institutions. As I already said, Young Africa has a young team, with the majority being women. The government doesn't have that." So as regards gender equality among students who study at Young Africa, we feel that Young Africa has done major work in enabling and encouraging women to take part in what Young Africa has to offer. Carmen is just one example of Young Africa's female success stories. But what about within Young Africa Mozambique as an organisation itself? When evaluating Mozambique's successfulness in relation to the Millennium Development Goal, we looked at it slightly differently. There is a huge culture difference between Ireland and Mozambique, and sometimes it was difficult for us to get our heads around this. We'd have to say that things are definitely improving, from the stories which have been told by Oksana, Carmen, and even from Lindsay. But it must be conceded that there is still an awful lot to be done to improve women's rights and gender equality. In conclusion, Mozambique may have reached the target, but I don't know if we can say that gender equality is a reality in every part of Mozambique. It is understood that education is key to achieving gender equality, yet the government fails to deliver on quality education and fails to deliver on equality in other aspects of life. Young Africa is one of the organisations which is stepping up to the mark, in a place where the government is failing to deliver. Young Africa is one of the places where true gender equality exists in Mozambique, and in this way it leads by example.